Welcome to Confidently Unstoppable, the podcast where we empower you to transform your self-talk, elevate your mind, and build unstoppable confidence. I'm your host, Marilyn West. Each week, we will dive deep into mindset shift to help you break barriers and embrace your full potential. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode. So today we're talking about rewriting the story you tell yourself about your past. This is part 3 of the healing journey. If you haven't listened to part 1 and 2, definitely go back to the past 2 episodes so you can get all caught up as we go through this journey of healing. Too often we carry around old narratives that keep us stuck, right? So if we're defining ourselves by our pain, mistakes, or limitation, but what if we could shift that perspective? What if we could reclaim our story in a way that empowers you instead of holding you back? So in this episode today, we're going to be talking about how to reframe your past with empathy, self-reflection, and a new mindset. So let's go. So the first thing that I want to talk about is how our stories shape our identity and limit our growth. One thing we have to understand that our brains are wired to find meaning in our experience, which is why the stories that we tell ourselves about the past are so powerful. If you're one of those people that always get stuck in your head as soon as something starts to go good, then it's time for you to shape your identity and stop limiting your growth when it comes to your mindset. So if you define yourself by your past failures, betrayals, or hardships, you start to believe that who you are is someone who's always struggling, always left behind, or never good enough. Honestly, I think this is why so many people get stuck in a cycle. If you were that kid who went to school and you barely passed, you're probably going to carry that into your adulthood thinking that I wasn't good enough, judging yourself based upon how well you did in school. But here's the thing. You can't control the environment that you grow up in. You couldn't control how well you consume your education if the teacher was actually teaching you in a way that you could understand. But if you carry that into adulthood, it's going to follow you in everything that you do, even in your relationships where you feel like you're not good enough. So you have to ask yourself, what story am I telling myself over and over? And is it one of resiliency or is it one of limitations? Because if you're putting limitations on yourself before you even had the opportunity to try or start, then of course you're going to fail. But here's the thing. The good news, you can rewrite your story at any given time. It doesn't mean pretending that the past didn't happen. It means that you're choosing how you want to interpret it. So you can rewrite your story. So how our stories shape our identity and limit our growth is by the stories that we are telling ourselves. The next thing that I want to talk about is the role of empathy in reframing painful experience. Empathy, especially self-empathy, is the key in shifting your perspective. Instead of judging your past self harshly, try seeing them with kindness. Ask yourself, what did I need back then? What was I trying to protect myself from? So at the end of the day, it's how we reframe our painful experience or whatever we have gone through. I can't sit here and judge myself harshly for using topical steroids because I didn't know back then that they were bad for a prolonged use of time. So I'm not going to say I did this to myself. I'm going to say back then I wasn't educated on what would happen if I used topical steroids for 20 plus years. So the role of empathy in reframing painful experience all starts with shifting your perspective. All right, so now let's talk about how we can use journaling and reflection to shift the narrative. It's so important that we learn how to shift the narrative. One of the best ways to reframe your story is through journaling. I love writing. I have so many journals at my desk. So write down a painful event from your past, then rewrite it with a new lens. What did you learn from your experience when you were trying to protect yourself? Or what did I need back then? Write that down. How did it shape you in a way that serves you today? Rewrite it, reframe it. If you had what you need, how would the situation turned out? If you knew what you were getting into, how would it have been a huge difference in the decision you decided to make? So try this journal prompt. If I looked at this experience through the eyes of my strongest, most powerful self, what would I see? So my friends, when it comes to reflection, I want you to understand that it doesn't erase the pain, but it helps you to extract the wisdom. Your past becomes a stepping stone instead of a roadblock. And I am so grateful for all the seasons of discomfort, uncertainty that I experienced because it really shaped me into the person that I am today. Your story is yours to tell and yours to redefine. You are not your pain, your past, or your mistakes. You are someone who is growing, evolving, and becoming more powerful because of what you've been through, not in spite of. So I challenge you to take a moment today to reflect on a story that's been holding you back. Write it in a way that empowers you. My friend, if this episode spoke to you, I want you to share it with someone who needs this message. But not only that, I would love for you to be a part of the Confidently Unstoppable community that is starting on March 3rd. Until next time, my friend. Thank you for tuning in to Confidently Unstoppable. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a confidence boost. Until next time, keep evolving and becoming the best version of yourself.